Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your neighbor here, and welcome to the Nook. I thought I'd shoot another quick video with you guys, and I do seem to have a fair number of sherried scotches on the shelf, so maybe another one to help move it along is a good idea. I'm going to talk to you about actually a unique type of whiskey that's often fairly available, and that is an expression from Duncan Taylor, the Octave. They come in these boxes, and I'll talk more about their process, but this one is a Brackla single malt. It's been reinvigorated with Octave Cask. We'll talk about that when we get back. It's pretty young at 6 years, but it's punchy at 53.1%, and it's spent its whole life in sherry. So if you've got something punchy and young and sherry, why don't you pour a little bit? When we come back, I'll talk about this Brackla release, but it's part of the Octave series from Duncan Taylor. 3, 4. Thanks for staying with me through the opener. Tried to say quite a few things, but in essence, this is a release from the Brackla distillery, but it's an independent bottling, and Duncan Taylor chooses to take this liquid and put it back into very small ex-sherry casks. So, first the Brackla distillery. I don't know enough about it, but you can read online and you see that they have very high stills and their line arm tilts back slightly, and they talk about how it increases copper contact and creates, a nice light spirit that can handle their chosen casking, which is ex-sherry, which is the first question I actually have about this release. It says right on here, Brackla, single cask, single malt scotch, 6 years in oak, and then 3 years in the Octave cask. I'll talk about those in a second. But what I read is that Brackla ages only in ex-sherry, so I feel like this is, only touched sherry and released at a pretty impressive 53.1%. The Octave series are quite interesting for me. They come in these kind of fun, like nice, very sturdy boxes, nice presentation, and in my market, many of them are actually a really good value. I'll talk more about what I paid for this, but it was very easy to pick up. Released at cask strength, and it's got that interesting Octave cask. Well, what does that mean? Well, Octave is just quite that. It's about an eighth the size of a regular sherry hogshead. So it's been a reconstructed sherry cask, says right on the back. They've made these tiny 50-liter casks, and then they age it in a short amount of time. This one only 3 months. And usually it imparts a pretty heavy sherried profile. But let's see what it does for this Brackla 2011 release, about 6.5 years old, somewhere in there. And it's been reinvigorated, or no, not reinvigorated. It's been just finished for 3 months in those tiny Octave casks. This no surprises me. It's sweet. It's light. Yeah, it's got a ton of sherry influence and lots of fruits. A little more jam than stewed fruits, but there's some of that in there, but really quite sweet, candy sweetness, honeyed sweetness. With, some nice, bright, almost floral sherries. Let's try it on the palate. Sláinte. It is a really tasty dram in the mouth. Again, quite sweet, beautifully coating. Not a lot of dimensions in the flavors. So again, sweet jams, but sweet malt. Like it really has quite a creamy, malty character running through it that picks up the sherry in a really nice way. Longer finish starts to polarize. I still get that sweetness, kind of syrupy going on. And then the oak comes, and this is when it falls apart. The oak here is tannic, a little bit bitter, a little bit aggressive, a little bit grassy, and it comes to me only in the finish. Try another sip. This Brackla, independent release by Duncan Taylor, the Octave, is a surprise to me. I knew it would be young, and it is. And it's got little grassy, little bitterness. There's some knocks going on. But the core nature of this dram, and there's some heat now, like just raw heat, just like alcohol burn coming on the palate. So there are definite flaws in this whiskey. But I've had a few Octaves, and I should share a few more with you. Got another one over there on the shelf. This is one of the better entrance Octaves I've ever had. The essential dram on this is chewy, slightly meaty. It's just a real delight. I would love to try this not in an Octave. I would love to try this just, even 8-10 years old. Could still be young, but just I'd love to really get to know the essential core of this, because I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. Value is so hard for me to skip. In my area, I found it in kind of a, off the path liquor store, like not a regular, not a big, kind of small. And I saw the box. I'm like, oh yeah, and it was like $53, $54 Canadian. I was like, okay, at 53%, it could be a mistake, but let's give it a try. And honestly, if you see an Octave in that kind of price range, I suggest give it a try. Now, they're often very aggressive and burning kind of sherry and oaky. There is some oak on here that I don't like, but this is easily a 4-star, and that essential, like just the chewiness and the coatingness, I can see it on the bottle, like it's sticking to all the glass, is really a delight. Like a surprisingly good core malt that's running in this thing. Anyways, as I said, 4 stars. If you see it for that kind of price, absolutely try it. Now, I thought I would compare it to another reasonably available, quite affordable cask strength sherry, because this is definitely full sherry. Whether it spent those first 6 or just picked up all that sherry in the Octave, I don't know. Full sherry. This is Glengoyne. Cask strength, I think it's batch 6. It's 59.8%. And it's also a non-age stamp, and also a fairly good deal in my neighborhood. Let's try it on the nose. This is darker on the nose, more stewed fruit, a little bit of orange, a little bit, yeah, the spice palette is deeper, it's richer, a little nutmeg already. So on the nose, so far, this is rich and this is sweet, but they're both strong sherries. Let's try it on the palate. Sancha. Taste experience matches that. It's richer, fuller, definitely more Christmas spices, a little bit of clove, lots of nutmeg. It's hot too. But it's just, it is just richer in terms of its broad flavor profile. Whereas this was surprising and good and really nice and chewy. It's pretty much sweet in the palate, and then it fell apart in the finish. This doesn't fall apart for me. I really like this. I prefer the Glengoyne, but I'm genuinely surprised and recommend, if you see this Brackla 2011, I'm enjoying it far more than I expected. Thanks for joining me down here. I hope you're okay with all these sherried scotches. In the last half year or so, my palate really swung to chase after some sherried scotch. So I even have a few more bottles that I haven't talked yet on the shelf in this kind of genre, and I hope that's really okay with you guys. I hope you also have had a great weekend and that the work week coming up is just fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Take care.